Hi, I'm Helen Richards, founder from Sew With Me, sewing classes for everyone, and today I show you how to sew. Today I show you how to sew clothes. The first part is to choose your pattern. There are several pattern companies on the market, and I have chosen today from McCall's. They have given you body measurement charts, and you check out, this is mostly in inches, but below mostly in centimeters. You have two different papers inside. The tissue paper is the pattern I have already cut out for you, and the other one is the description. Below, very important, all the pieces, how they look like, and you choose accordingly to the design you have chosen the pieces you need to cut out, and accordingly to this you can sew your garment. I have here one piece where I can show you how the pattern looks before you cut it out. You see the outlines. For this you take a paper scissors. Lay it out accordingly to the description the pattern company has given you. There is a certain arrow that's called the grain line. It's very important that you put the pieces in the correct direction. Here we have the grain line in this direction, so I'm putting it in this direction. When your pattern is laid out correctly, then you start pinning it. Step 4 now would be the cutout. You see that the pattern, the paper, lays nicely on the fabric, and then you cut along the paper. Make sure that you don't cut into the paper. You see we have here two dots where the pocket needs to be attached. Pin this through, and now I take the pencil and make a dot there, holding the pin. The interfacing, the fusible interfacing, is a material like a stiff. You use it to stiffen certain parts of your garment. Now you have to cut this out, apply this on the left side of your fabric, put pressure and heat with your iron on it, and it will stick really with glue onto your fabric. The next step is to pre-iron. I ironed here a little bit, 5 millimeters approximately, on the shoulder and on the length of the facing. So now we are coming to finish the edge from the facing. For this I choose again a big zigzag stitch, and I'm zigzagging around. Changing the machine back to straight stitch and make the hem from the pocket. The next step is to make now the cuffs. I measure exactly the half, but I bend the pre-ironed part back, and I will not sew all the way to the edge. Straight stitch and back stitching. Then you trim back to a ½ centimeter. Turn the cuff inside out. The collar has a round shape and a straight one. The round one is where you apply it to the neckline. All the other 3 sides need to be closed. Again, you need to trim back 5 millimeters. Clip the corners a little bit off. Now I have to apply the blacks to the sleeve. You pin this black down so it gives you more support when you sew over it, and sew very close to the edge. And sew now here a little corner off. On the right side, it looks like this. Now I have here prepared the front piece of a blouse, and I have marked on the left side the positions accordingly to the pattern where the pocket needs to be attached. Now I have here the pins out, and this gives me the position of the pocket. Take some pins and start pinning all the way around. You need to sew all the way around, and that's what I show you now. All the way on the edge is the first seam, then I will go around and go back parallel to the first seam. I would recommend that even flat sleeves would be gathered. You have the notches, and this is the points where you start gathering. You line up by the line of 1 centimeter of your stitch blade. Machines have a line here, and please make sure that you don't backstitch. Gathering is every time twice. Now you put it on the position of 2 centimeters. Please apply now the front pieces to the back and close the shoulder. Use again seam allowance of 5/8 of an inch. Normal stitch length of 3 or 2.5 depending on your model. Backstitch on the begin and on the end. Now you change your machine to zigzag and secure the edges. Press the seam allowance toward to the back and you are ready to apply the collar. Line up my 2 middle parts and pin. We have here on the blouse a notch, and also on the collar is a notch. This shows me where these 2 pieces need to line up. Now if everything is correct, this shoulder part should again line up with the shoulder seam, what it does. Whatever I have done on the one side, I have to do also to the other side. The next part is that you need to notch the seam allowance, and only the seam allowance. This little part here goes into the collar. Pin this down, and all the way on the edge you close this seam. Now you flip the interfacing. Now the next step is to close the side seam from your blouse and also the side seam from your sleeve. My sleeve has here some pleats. I notched this already before, so I'm folding the pleats accordingly to the notches. Now I start to attach the cuff from the left side. Line this all the way with the opening. Start pinning all the way around. This is then how it will look at the end. You're using again 5/8 seam allowance. Now I flip the cuff. Now first I didn't sew all the way to the end, and that's the reason why, because now I can easily push everything inside and it is a straight corner. Now you need to close here, very close on the edge with 1 seam. We are now in a stage where we can already attach the sleeves into the armhole. In this case it would be the right arm. Checking out which one is the right sleeve. Now I have on the very top of the sleeve a notch, and this notch lines up with the shoulder sleeve. Then I flip the blouse over and I'm starting to pin facing the sleeve. After that, you remove the gathering stitches. In approximately the middle, and then 1 centimeter ahead, I make a mark. The buttonhole will be sewn in this direction. And then 1 centimeter from here, and make a dot. The next step would be to set up your machine. You have to set up the stitch length, and that's what you do on your wheel where the stitch lengths are attached. But I have also to change here the foot. Now I do this, I press here the red button, it falls off, and then my machine has here a glider. It snaps in. This thread needs to come down under the presser foot. And now you can see this very nicely. It glides back and forward. Now how do I know how big the buttonhole has to be? Now I take the chosen button, line it up on the first line and see that I have to come here. You know that I have made a dot. The dot has to be exactly in the middle of this opening. So I see the dot still. Then I go and press on 1. Stop. It's there. The needle must be all the way up. Then I press on 2. Count approximately 5-6 times. This is enough. Stop. I have to do again an end stitch. I go on 4. Needle up and the buttonhole is sewn. You can see here the mark for the button. So please start from the right side. I take my button. I go out the first hole, in the second one, and go exactly in the same hole down where I went before. Now and come out the same hole I did before. And then under the buttonhole I start to secure the thread. You cut off the thread. You attach the seam allowances and you make only a couple of stitches back and forward. And then you go to the top, because here the interfacing, the facing also hangs free, and that's not nice. Take only the seam allowance, ladies, and sew the seam allowance again with a little neck. And your garment is done. And this is how to sew clothes.